Welcome back to Cafecito Chats. Thank you everybody for joining today's topic. We're going to talk about working in the DoD, the public, the private, and or the government agencies. So there's differences in all three, and there's preferences by some people. There's benefits from working in one versus the other. So we're going to attempt and provide our insight and our expertise and experiences while we work in those particular fields and different lines of industry per se. So once again, working in DoD, public, private, and or the government agencies, not necessarily being a government official, but being an employee for a government agency, right? So you're not getting elected or voted on. I mean, that's not something that we're gonna really explore here, unless we do have Mr. Mike Cruz, who attempted to jump into the government, but we can touch on that for a little bit there. But other than that, that's the topic at hand. So my personal experience working in DoD, working in the public industry, and working in the government agency, not necessarily a private industry per se. I've had different roles. For the public, I worked at a company for about 18 years. They were worldwide. They literally have, stocks and shares, and so they have stockholders. They have rules and regulations. They were owned by a bigger company called Caterpillar, so some of the mandates coming from Peoria at that time were driving some of the internal changes and alignments that they wanted to see for this particular company. But overall, it was an interesting, great experience. When you're an employee there, they give you a charge number, and it's very, from my experience now working in DoD, working in the public sector, was a little bit more relaxed as far as how you charge. Not extremely, but at least to some extent you could charge to the nearest half hour, right? And that's more or less. And they were very flexible as far as the charge in place norms that they had. Basically, they were charging to projects, and they also had, if you had a all hands or a town hall meeting, which is essentially a meeting where most of or all the employees of a certain sector, division, group are called into a meeting, they would give you an hour to charge to that network number so that you could use it and utilize it for that. You would, in this case, this is pre-COVID, so all labor was in person, on site. So you had to literally drive up, and rules and regulations. Obviously, HR does stipulate that you have to be respectful, and this is for all DoD and every other industry, right? And there's different guidelines that you have to follow. So pretty much get the employee manual handbook and look at the guidelines, understand what you're getting yourself into. That's for the public industry. For the DoD, when I came into the DoD, it's a little more structured, it's a little more stringent in regards to, they do look at your background further. They give you a security clearance. It's not necessarily, there's different levels from what I understand, different levels. There's the secret clearance, the top secret, and the super top secret, I guess, to some extent, right? And depending on when you apply, you can definitely go and wait for that approval for about 6 months to a year, depending on what they are looking for, how extensive their search really is, whether you have some gaps in address or location. So when you actually apply, it's a long form that's over 100 questions, and they're literally asking you for, have you had contact with foreign entities, government entities, individual entities? So how many times did you go out of the U.S., the continental U.S., or the 50 U.S. states, right? And they're looking for dates. Approximate dates are okay, but they do want to know pretty much all of your history of going out of the country, and they want to look for your home address or address that you lived in for the past 7 to 10 years. And if there's different locations, and I've seen this with a lot of students when they're in college, they actually live with a couple roommates, so they do want those contacts for your roommates. They do want the physical address, the apartment number, the phone number. If you live with more than one or two people, they will ask you for their contact number. So that's why I decided to do this particular conversation, because this particular DoD form for your security clearance is very involved, and it does ask you for a lot of information that maybe when you're a student and nobody tells you, you don't really keep, and you're trying to hunt for this information and you might have lost contact. For example, if Ken and I roomed together for a year and all of a sudden Ken goes to San Francisco and I lose track of Ken, I'm going to be out of luck because I need to report Ken's information in that form, and I need to hunt him down through Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, some of my other contacts and friends in order for him to vouch if they do happen to contact Ken. Does he know me as an individual? Am I a good person? Am I who I say I am? That's literally what they're doing, right? So just be aware of that. As far as the charging, once again, going to the network system, this one, because you do work for the government, they're more stringent. They do want to look for like the closest to the 15-minute mark of what you're doing. Sometimes you can charge in place. Most of the times the town hall meetings are not necessarily given to you in regards to getting a network number. You have to charge in place, and if you don't have a authorization, you really can't go. So one of the big differences that I see also is at the end of the year, a lot of public companies do have a big bonus per se, right? DoD does not have a big bonus at the end of the year. They will give you maybe your regular merit increase between 2 to 3%, depending on how you do. But a lot of the public companies, on top of your merit increase, they will give you between a 5% to a 10%, depending on how the stock and the company actually perform. So that's a big plus. However, a lot of companies actually tag that into as part of your all package benefit, and they say and they claim that that's your overall salary. Not saying that that is correct, but that's how they kind of bundle it up. In contrast, DoD pays you a little more because they're lumping in that 5 to possibly 10% bonus, annual bonus, when you get hired on. So just be aware of that, right? Once again, for those of you who are not aware, when you do get a bonus, a lump sum, you do get a tax, heavy tax, which is between 38 and 42%, depending on what you have as far as tax claims and whatnot. So just be aware that if you are getting a for example, $5,000 bonus, and at the end of the year when you actually do your taxes, they will have been, that $5,000 will have been taxed about 40%, 38%, whatever it is. So you're literally getting about $2,600 instead of the $5,000. Just be aware of that, right? So don't spend it all in one place, because you might have to end up paying Uncle Sam at the end of the year. So just be aware of that. So that's where I'm at with the private and DoD. As far as the government, I did work in the public government sector for 2 years. It's very relaxed, and in that one, you do have a tier, so you know exactly what you're gonna make. You know the steps that you need to take in order to move up to the next one. Is between 1 or 2 years before you advance. So it's very, very structured. You do have, for the government still, you do have a pension. However, when I was there, I heard and I knew and I learned that the pension system has been restructured and is less strong, if I can say that, than when it originally started. So you have, for San Diego County, you have pension A, pension B, pension C, and now pension D. I came into that San Diego County office and I got the pension C, and now they're in pension D. But pension D gives you less than pension C, and it works the same way. If you were there from the very beginning and you've spent 30 years, you can pretty much retire without a 401k whatsoever, and they will give you 75%, 80%, whatever it is of your salary for the rest of however you long you live. And they do have, however, the government agencies still have a great health care plan. They are subsidized greatly. So the cost of healthcare when you're in the government public side, they do take care of you in that regard. So you pay less out of pocket versus going to a public and or DoD where you end up paying a little more. However, the salary brackets in the government for engineering or for any STEM are a little bit less than DoD and or public industry. So just be wary of that, right? They do try to adjust to the cost of living or what they call COLA, cost of living for the specific locations. So I would suggest and encourage everyone to Google and say COLA or cost of living adjustments for whatever city, location, state, and that way you have a better understanding of what that really looks like and whether the salary or the compensation is sufficient, satisfactory for that location. So that's my long-winded summary and briefing on what I've experienced so far, but that's how I want to start the conversation. See if you have any inside preference, working DoD experience, or public, or even government agencies. So for that, I'm going to go over to Lourdes because you did start off with a startup, and I want to get your perspective working from the startup now to a more established public corporation. Lourdes, hopefully you can turn on your mic.
Yeah, hi everybody. The startup was a lot of fun, but also no structure, just, management doing crazy things. I prefer more of a structure layout, so the company that I'm at right now, it's privately owned. And there's like rules, there's a employee handbook as well. Not as structure as the DoD for sure though.
Do they have to, so when you say they have guidelines and rules and regulations, do they abide by the ISO 9001 or is there something else that they abide by?
I think it's the one you mentioned.
Okay, okay. So I'm assuming that because they're also doing oil and gas drilling equipment, I'm pretty sure that if they have a manufacturing or machining facility over there, they have to abide by government regulations from the state of California in this case, and I'm assuming that they have to abide to the Cal OSHA regulations, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. As far as compensation goes, you don't have to give me numbers, but you can say percentages or good, bad, or better between one or the other.
Better compensation between privately owned and startup. Um, Better benefits as well.
Okay.
A better 401k.
Okay.
Um, what are the other ones?
As far as mentorship or reimbursement for education, further education, something like that, did they have it at the startup? Is it better with a privately owned company?
They didn't have it at the startup. I don't know if we do something like that here, but I know that they're very like flexible. Like there's a lot of people, some people here who work full time and they're also professors at Cal Poly.
Oh,
So they like work around their schedule or work around their classes or if it's midterms or finals week or vacations. It's flexibility.
okay. But
Yeah,
once again, this is a privately owned company, correct?
correct.
Do you have access and do you get to see the owners more often than not?
Um, I think it's owned by, okay, so we know the main owner and his family, but now we have a board of directors. So we report to the board of directors and our ECO. CEO,
Or
CEO.
CEO?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then our main headquarters are in Texas. So there's a lot of that. We're the research facility here in California, but we also have districts all over the world. So there's a lot of international knowledge as well. So for us, it's 50% international, 50% domestic. And we have a lot of employees on the ground teaching people how to use our tools or using our tools. And we focus on sensors.
Okay.
But
Okay.
each office has their own like specific thing.
Okay. All right. So do they have a sales engineering team per se? I'm assuming they do.
Mm, yes, we do have a sales department that kind of goes and gets the contract in a way, but most of the time is not really about sales, is about the data that you have and how accurate your tools are. That's usually what speaks the most. And um yeah, and we work a lot like we're one of the little guys, that's how we describe ourselves, we're one of the little guys, but we work a lot with the big guys. Like Exxon, all the big ones in Brazil, we're always there. Yeah.
So essentially, this company does a lot of subcontracting to the larger corporations, correct?
Yeah, so whenever you're drilling for something, there's a tool string, right? And we're usually part of that tool string. So sometimes our engineers would work a lot with like Halliburton to make sure we can thread to each other, or it'll be Exxon, or there'll be a lot of that. So there could be different corporations within the tool string.
Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna go over to Alex Polo because you've worked in a couple, two big companies from what I remember, and you're doing your own thing on the side as well as the financial advisor. But let's focus on all of your package that you have, right? So you started as an engineer and then you became a sales rep through the engineering applications process. And then you explored a little bit of entrepreneurship with your financial venture that you did there. And in conjunction, also, you're still doing now with somebody else, a larger company, sales for robotics, sensors, and whatnot. So, Alex Polo, my question to you is, how has your experience been? Assuming that you're still kind of public company wise, but still mingling with a lot of DoD. So, what's your perception, sir?
I mean, basically, my career has been in the private industry. So, working for companies and mainly in the sales role. And yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I like it. It gives you the opportunity to, at least in my case, uh, be well known in the industry. I
Hmm.
mean, for Southern California or even the Southwestern states right now, I'm considered like a specialist in linear motion technology. I mean, people that know me always point to Alex Polo,
Okay.
for the specialty of linear motion systems. But yeah, I mean, I know I have friends like you and other people that work, in the DoD and government, and I mean, each one has its own benefits and pros and cons.
Yeah.
Uh, you just gotta, I guess, weigh everything and see what works for you best. I mean, I like my in this industry that it allows me to work with, you know, companies such that are in DoD, and so I get exposure to all that. I mean, maybe I don't get the benefits of working, for a government company or something like that, but still, just you make a name for yourself in the private industry. And I'm sure it happens too in the DoD and government. I'm just talking from my experience. So, uh, but yeah,
As far as your venture with the financial realm there, how do you, obviously, this is your effort to go off on your own and really do well, but how does that compare to being a full-time employee for a corporation?
I mean, it's having your own business kind of thing is challenge in itself. I mean, you have to contemplate, you know, several months or even years without making anything, and you just gotta mentally prepare yourself for something like that. I mean, think of restaurant owners, right? You open a restaurant, and what's the statistics? Only like what 1 in 50 restaurants survive their first year or something like that, and then even less 4 years after that. So, it's nothing's guaranteed, but I mean, if you're able to be successful, with your own business and stuff, then yeah, that could be very good in the long run. I would even say, better than working for a company. Uh, yeah, and just being in the industry now with listening to the topics that they cover about having your own business and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I do agree that nothing beats working, for yourself. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, uh, I mean, yeah, you can work hard all your life at a private company or whatever, and you're just going to make someone else rich, right?
Mhm. Right, right, right.
So, I mean, but then you do have the security of having a paycheck and benefits and all that. So
Yeah.
again, it's weighing what you want and the risks that you're able to take, and then I mean, I always say to people, this life is a big casino. You make decisions that will take you in different directions, and you never know where you're gonna land. I mean, for me, even making a decision to go into sales I saw that as a risk, but in the end, it worked out great for me. Uh, but in this life, you have to make those kinds of decisions. I think that's what life is about. You know,
Yeah.
taking risks and going into the unknown, and you never know. I mean, yeah, some people fail, some people become successful, but in the end, I think it's all up to the individual.
Right.
That that determines a big part of that if it's going to be successful or a failure. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's pretty much the conversation here, right? What's the best one? What's the best decision for you, and what fits you as an individual, and how to weigh those benefits and cons, or pros and cons, for yourself versus the various industries. So, we touched on the entrepreneurship. You did mention that it does take a lot of mental fortitude to some extent, right? Because not having that
security.
income, security of income constantly coming in is like, okay, am I really going to make it? How am I going to make ends meet? And I'm pretty sure that when you were, out of the workforce for a couple months there, you started seeing your savings start reducing, right? So initially, when I asked you, you said, "Yeah, I have about a year to maybe a year and a half savings to last me." But at the same time, when you're not seeing that savings account remain steady or increasing at whatever level, you start seeing it dwindle, and you're like, "Okay, 1 month, 2 month, 3 months," and you're like, "Oh man, okay, is this gonna be worth it? Is it gonna work out?" So that mental fortitude is when that starts kicking in, right? But can you walk us through what you went through for a little bit there to some extent?
Yeah, so I mean, this current company that I'm working for, the engineering one, that I mean, I wasn't really looking for a job at that
Right.
moment. I mean, I was still mentally thinking to myself, yeah, I need to be, focused on the financial, and it's going well. I mean, even last month I got promoted at the company. Uh, so, uh, but yeah, for me. What happened is that I thought it was going to go faster,
Hmm.
but it was taking longer, and then I had made adjustments to my lifestyle and all, and then I wasn't liking it.
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
So, uh, that made me think a lot. And when this opportunity came my way, I told myself, maybe just look into it. Doesn't mean you're gonna be working there or anything. But then, the interviews went by, the conversations kept going, and then back and forth negotiations as well. And yeah, in the end, I realized, yeah, I mean, it's not gonna hurt both careers, you know,
Right.
to do them, at the same time. So
Right.
uh, yeah, but I mean, if I hadn't gotten this opportunity, I think I would still be holding on, and I would still be progressing on at the financial company.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be at the point right now where I'm like, oh, I need to go back to work or anything like that.
Right.
Because, like I told you, yeah, I did have at least a year to do it, and then make a decision a year after.
Yeah.
So I would still be in that time frame right now.
Yeah, no, and that's good, but I did want to bring that awareness to the viewers, listeners,
Yeah.
just to make sure, and to the audience here too. Hey, if you do want to venture as an entrepreneur, it's not just jump in and do it, right? There's some mental fortitude that you need, mental preparation, as well as a little bit of financial planning and making that saving cushion for 6 months, a year and a half for you to actually have a salary per se for yourself to keep afloat, right? Because it's not like, okay, I quit today, no preparation whatsoever. I start a venture and hope it sticks, right? So there's some preparation that you went through, and I think that's the point that we want to drive here, to explore entrepreneurship, but at least to some awareness of, I need to be prepared for what is coming, and possibly have a conversation with people who've done it in the past and what the expectations are. It's not like, oh, I can take indefinite time off and be home and just chill out and watch TV and go to the beach. No, if you're going to be working, you're going to be working literally 24/7 for the first couple years, and that's going to be your baby, your business, and you're going to focus wholeheartedly on it, because that's how you're ultimately going to end up making your living when money starts coming in. And sometimes money doesn't come in the first month, second month, 6 months down the road, until maybe 8 months, a year, depends on what you're doing, right? And you did bring up a good point, the restaurant. Maybe you don't break even until maybe 2 years down the road, because you invest on it. If you want to venture into a franchise does ask you for some money up front. You got to get a business loan. You got to do payroll, get people on your docket, and make sure that they come in. So now you're a full CEO with all that extra headache on it, right? So that's pretty much what we're after, and that's pretty much what we're looking at here, if you really want to do that. I'm going to Ken Winto. Ken Winto, from the conversation we've had, any insights that you want to share about working at UPS, and or some of the labs that you've worked, and how they compare and contrast?
Yeah, working for FedEx has provided a lot more benefits than working for all the other part-time jobs I've had. I've worked at restaurants. Usually, restaurants are the ones I've had the most years, I think, on experience, alongside my studies, of course. But the restaurants didn't really provide a lot of benefits, like no 401k, hard to get days off. Um, in FedEx, it's more structured, so I'm able to have a 401k, and they contribute like 60%. So if out of 100, if depending on how much percentage I want to get out of, like if I say if I want to take out 100 of my check, they would provide $60 more, so 150, 60% of the 100. So it goes like that, and I think it's useful, but I think it depends on what the person wants to do. I think if the person really wants to benefit from the 401k, then they should look for that in the company and ask for it in the beginning. But if maybe they don't want to participate for any reason, then maybe not. I also work in clinics, and I had limited experience because I wish I had more on working with clinics, but I do have two experiences at the county of San Diego, by the old town, and then also I worked in a clinic at in Japan in Osaka, and the clinic in Osaka was a surgical clinic, and the one in San Diego was more like diagnosis. I like the diagnosis better, but in terms of the science behind it, but in terms of like the benefits, the county does offer more benefits. And in Japan, it was a private-owned clinic, though, so I got more interactions with the owner of the clinic. So he was the one who interviewed me, who hired me. He would tell me to go close to his house and like go to his house and bring things because his clinic, he owned the clinic and he had it close to his house as well. He had a big mansion, so he would tell me, "Oh, go with my wife and get something, and or like go with your other coworkers to my house and bring something back." And then I would have more hands-on and patience, like interactions. So the working with them in terms of like the vibe and of the work shift was somewhat better, less strict than the U.S. But maybe less strict, but that's because the cultural part kind of made up for it. Because Japanese culture is already very high in terms of manners. So there, like even if there's no wall next to another consultation room, even though it was just a curtain, like no one really kind of hears or pays too much attention on the conversation next to the next room, because they may be talking about something more like very medical related on their situation. Or so the working for those type of like environment, I really liked it. And I think in terms of benefits, the pay was also a little bit lower than the US, but the cost of living was much lower as well than the US. Like rent for me was only around like for 350 uh for the month in Japan for my own place. But I could still get a lot of revenue out. Similar to like living in Tijuana. I also lived in Tijuana. I only paid like 350, and then I was able to earn in dollars in San Diego and still get more revenue out. So that's just how I think it worked for me. But I think again it would depend on the quality of life that the person is looking for. In my opinion, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Great insight, great perspective, and that's really interesting to hear international work experience there for a little bit and how that contrasts to the U.S. Thank you for sharing that insight, Mr. Mike Cruz. You retired from NIWIC essentially, or the metrology department over in the Coronado base, and you spent 25, almost 30 years somewhere over there. And that's your main experience. But I know that you talk to a lot of professionals in various industries, and I know that you talk to a lot of students. And I want to get your perspective from the whole conversation. What's your take on DoD, public, private, and or startups? And also, we'll touch on the government venture that you went in for a little bit there. So, Mr. Mike Cruz?
Yeah, it's a huge topic, really huge topic. So my experience with working with other people and other in the public sector, for the city, the city government people, the engineers who work there, they seem to be happy with their jobs, have stayed with them long term. Private sector working for those companies also have worked out well. So I've known two people that have made decisions like Alex Polo, midway or early on in their careers, and they have the expertise they needed in their discipline, and they went out to start their own companies. Well, one lasted less than a year, the other one was about a year and a half, but both realized that running or making your mark in the world as a owner of a company, especially technology company, is rather difficult. And so, both of them, I think, realized at a time that I need to go back to work. The money has run out, and and both of them had did that after a year and a half. They said, okay, I got to go back. I got to earn money. I'm married. I got a family. Da 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 da. So, uh, so going back to what Alex said, you know, when you look at a job and in what sector, you know, public sector, private sector, government, you need to know, you need to do your research and find out what the benefits are. First of all, just see what kind of environment you're going to go into. Some the companies usually have a retirement plan and a medical plan, and that was one thing I was going to ask Laura: is does she have a medical plan where she's working now? Because that's important, because those are big costs. Those are big unexpected costs. So you have to realize that in your lifetime you may become sick, and so what kind of health coverage do you have? So you need to look at the packages that the companies offer, see if that fits with your view of the world. And then, so that's one thing is looking at the company's stability, the offerings that it has. And then you have to look at the type of work that you're going to be doing. Is it favorable to you? You know, are you going to enjoy what you're doing? If you're not enjoying your work, you're not going to last long. You know, you're going to go somewhere else. So you can look at the benefits for the company. Do you enjoy your work? And then is your lifestyle compromised in any way with your work? You know, hey, you know, you like to do certain things. Can you still do that and have time to do it in the work arena? So picking over the years, people have been successful in all endeavors, basically. Very few people that I've met have not been successful in their work experience. They've changed jobs, but they're still, you know, they're still enjoying what they're doing. So I haven't met a lot of quote people that have not been successful, professionals. We're talking STEM folks in their career, because they may have started out technical, then they go into managerial, they go into sales, they go into contracts. You know, so there's other avenues of work that people can go to once they start in whatever discipline and whatever work arena that they go into. So there's a lot of options out there, and I think if a person has enough fortitude to do well, like you say, like Alex was saying, it's up to you. You know, you're going to put in the effort to do well, whatever you did. So for me, working for the government, I liked it because I knew, you know what your pay grade was going to be from now until, you know, from GS5 to GS15. You had the little card, you had to pay, you know how much you're going to make, da 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 da. So I'll say one thing about working for the government or working for any place is to see if there's a special pay for your area. So, like for engineers in San Diego, we got an extra pay. It wasn't on the public information board, but we got a certain stipend for being an engineer in the San Diego area, and we got an extra hourly wage bonus. So it might be interesting if you're working in an area and it's cost sensitive. You know, might want to ask, you know, if I'm in this area, is there a bonus associated with being an engineer in this discipline, in this area, in this city or state or whatever? So those are the kind of things you probably need to look after if you're working for a company. If you're working on your own, you set your own you set your own rate. You know, you're going to pay yourself whatever you can. But working for a big company, you got to research out all the amenities associated with that, your work environment. Do you have to do a lot of travel or not? And are there any hidden expenses that you may have to incur with your job? Sometimes those don't pop up. You know, you may have to buy clothes or safety equipment or whatever may be on your own. So those are things that you personnel equipment, private personnel equipment. So be aware of all those things. But I think when you say, what sector do I want to best work in? I think they all have their assets. You all can do well in all the various sectors. It's really up to you and to do your research find out what each sector offers, and do you feel comfortable with that? I like the government because I knew my pay rate, I knew how many years between each step, and promotion progressions were that they were noted. You didn't have to worry about pleasing anybody other than doing your work. If you did your work fine, then after 1 or 2 years, you got the promotion. You know, well, you got the increases. Promotions, yeah, you had to work for that. Okay, but increases were automatic. So, just I think the question overall is, it's really up to you. It's your choice. What part of the workforce you want to be in? Private sector, public sector, government.
Yeah.
They all offer good things.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I put in the chat. I said the reflection is which sector is better for you. So we're trying to provide our insight, our experience, our takeaways from what we've seen, heard, and experienced over our course of our life career here. So our listeners, our viewers, and even our audience here can definitely say, hey, I definitely didn't know that about these startups, didn't know that about private companies, didn't know that about DoD. So now with all this collective information, you as an individual can make a better decision or explore some of them and make a final decision that best suits your life, right? And once again, you don't have to stick to one or the other. You can explore and experiment. And if you say, you know what, I didn't really like moving here, I can always go back to what I already was doing. And you can always build those bridges and continue expanding. But don't limit yourself to one thing if you have this hunger to continue seeing and exploring. And don't let fear just hold you back. If you really want to explore, go ahead and explore. We've seen over the last 2 decades, okay, a lot of movement, a lot of people are changing corporations' careers. And one of the things that I talked to Mr. Mike about is, one of the reasons I think this is happening is because pensions are going away. So there's that job security is no longer holding a lot of the employees down as an anchor. You do have 401ks, but when you have 401ks, and this is really interesting, when you have 401ks, there's 2 to 3 year before you're bedded, fully bedded, which means that you can take whatever amount of money the employer gave you. However, it doesn't mean that whatever you put into that for those 2 years stays with the company or you lose it. If you put $50, $100, $5,000, those are yours. The company can't take it away. You can take it and distribute it and roll it over into another 401k. But if they do matchups, you do lose that money if you don't stay with that particular company for the extended period of time that they tell you. Some companies say 3 years. A lot of companies now are saying 5 years. So if you want to stay with the company for 5 years and then try your luck experience with somebody else, you're more than welcome to venture and do that, right? And that works with a lot of the industry that we see now, including government agencies. However, if there's a pension, that means that whenever you leave that particular company, your pension takes a pause, it stops. But when you're at the retirement age, you can definitely go back and say, hey, I work for General Atomics, which has a pension. I work for the government County of San Diego office. It has a pension. They will go ahead and give you whatever pension you accrued up to your years of service, whether it be 2, 3, 4 years of service. They will give you that, but it's just up to you on how you want to navigate your career ultimately. We're here to give you our insight, our perspective, and this is to bring awareness and more than anything to allow you to think and start asking more questions about what is better for me, right? For you as an individual, as a professional. So that way you have this latitude to move one way or the other and have that ability to say, hey, I really like what Alex Polo was saying. Maybe I'll contact him and explore a little more about entrepreneurship. Or I can definitely go ahead and paying Lourdes Sarmiento, hey, I know that you work at a private company, owned company, maybe ask you a couple questions. And one of the questions that came up is healthcare. Healthcare is very important. Maybe not when you're young, because right now, and for years, I didn't really go to the doctor on a regular basis, right? And not even the annual health checkups. And that's normal for a lot of young people, right? You do have healthcare, but you seldomly use it. But when you have a family, it becomes more important because now you have your kids that have to go to their annual checkups. They have to go to the dentist. They have to go to the eye doctor. And it's more of a family thing for me. It became more of a family benefit than more of a personal benefit. But at the same time, over certain years go by, you start thinking, okay, maybe I really should start taking care of myself, go to the doctor a little more because I do want to live longer to be able to, secure the future for them, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of the benefit of the medical aspect. And just to put it into perspective, some of the younger people that are single, they might say, you know what, I don't really care. I'm going to go with the cheapest plan. But really look at the different levels of coverage and out of pocket and coverage that you have with the different pertinent packages that your employer offers. And even if you're an entrepreneur, I'm pretty sure that if you're an entrepreneur, you can definitely go ahead and secure different healthcare packages, but there's different tiers and different coverage packages. And so a retiree, you do get some of the benefits from retirement, but at some level, you're going to go into Medicare, Medicaid, and you have to actually put in for that. So that's another topic all in itself that we can definitely explore. But those are all the things that being an employee or being an entrepreneur really bring to light. And it's the whole comprehensive package that you really want to look at. We focused on the medical aspect for a little bit here, but the whole benefit package compensation is really something that you really want to look into. So around the room, any final thoughts? We're gonna go over to Lourdes. Any final thoughts?
Nope, no final thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Lourdes. Alex Polo, any final thoughts?
I think it's been mentioned. It's up to you. I mean, you just got to do your analysis and see what you want to do. I mean, for me, the paths I've taken in life are, they are coming from someone that doesn't have a family. So I think my risk tolerance is higher because of that. When you have a family, maybe you're more cautious about taking these types of risks. But in the end, again, I think it's worked out good for me. Yes, have I gone to law school and then decided not to, and then it cost me $200K? Yes, I've gone through that, but those are just the experiences I've had to pay for, for making these decisions. But in the end, I think I made a decision, and that's all I can do.
Thank you, Alex Polo, and that's what we're here for, to hear your insight and to learn from your insight, so that way we have a little more knowledge. Ken, any final thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I liked what you and Mike was also talking about like knowing kind of what, like doing the research on the company before joining to see what type of benefits it provides, and like if that's going to be a match for your like lifestyle, your like what you're going to be doing in your job roles. I think that those are important at any age or phase in your career. I think if you look at that, you can make a better decision. So my final words were just like, I agree with what you're saying, both of you guys. Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. Great insight. Mr. Mike Cruz, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just thinking, when I hired on for work at North Island, you had to go to HR first. They're the ones that hire you. They're the one that kind of screen you, and at that point they tell you all the benefits and about retirement and about health care and about working hours and all of that stuff. So if you do go work for a company, I believe you still go to the HR first to do when you get hired in. I don't think you go right to the job. So that's an opportunity to ask some questions and fill out the company. So you're in, but you're not in. So if you're at the HR level, you can ask a lot of young people probably don't, because they don't know what to ask. But again, if you do a little bit of research about the company, there will be time to ask some questions. I think out of this whole discussion, what hit me the most is probably the young professional doesn't think about a 30-year work history.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think about 30 years down the line. They're going to get married. They're going to have family. They're going to have kids. They're going to go to law school. There's a lot of things that we don't think about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you start that job, I think it's hard for someone to think about, buying a house and buying a car and paying taxes. All those things come to mind. You're an adult now. You're in the working world, and there's a lot of things to know about. And one of the big thing is financial literacy. You need to have that in the back of your mind, because your finances are really going to control you on your whole career from beginning to end. You have to work with your financial obligations, your revenue streams coming in, and think about that. So to the young people out there, think about 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Look at your parents, look at your friends, and see how they've lived their lives and their careers. There's a lot to be gleaned from that. You don't have to go in empty-handed. So learn from others, observe what others have done, and hopefully your goal will be to do better. Maybe not better than the next, but to do better. So believe in yourself, and there's going to be many options out there. It's a scary world. For a young person. I just read in the newspaper today, there was an article in San Francisco, some young lady's making $180,000 a year,
Yeah.
and her roommate's making the same. They can't afford an apartment in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The apartments are like $5,000 or
Yeah.
more a month. I can't imagine that. So it's a different world out there. Where you work and what state you work in is going to be a lot different. If you're working in Idaho or North Dakota, it's going to be a different environment. So as a young person, I challenge them to move out of the comfort zone here in San Diego, go to some other city, go to some other state, and learn about life from their point of view. So there's a lot to learn. I think this discussion here hopefully will open up some thinking for our young listeners that there's a whole world out there. Take advantage of it while you're in college. Do the internships. Leave the state, or even when your first job, if it's outside the state, for 3 to 5 years, go do it. Learn what it's all about, and if you really need to. What's that, Ken? $850 for your studio? Where are you living, man?
Chinatown, San
Yeah.
Francisco. Yeah.
Okay. You need to get an upscale apartment, dude.
Well, it meets my needs so far, and it has
Yeah.
my own little private room. So,
Yeah,
and
there
it
you go.
also helps my budget.
And
I'd rather
Ken,
pay 850 than 5,000, right?
yeah. No. Hey, Ken, you bring up a good point. When you read an article where people are paying $5,000 for rent, there's places around there you don't have to pay that. I have friends living in Imperial Beach that pay less than $1,500 a month, where normal rent is $3,000. So it all depends on what your lifestyle is. If you like Alex and you, if you don't have to worry about your better half, and keeping the kids up and all that, then you have a lot more options to do well, and it allows you to save some money. It allows you to start having a savings plan that really works for you. If you have to max out your living expenses and you can't save anything, then you have to rethink that. So that's a good point, Ken. So there you go, Lazaro.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mike Cruz. Lourdes, you had your hand up. Going back over to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that HR used to do a lot for you back in the day.
Mhm.
Times are changing. Now they just give you the handbook and they're kind of more like figure it out type of thing. So there's a lot of like hands-on learning about the onboarding process or asking questions to your coworkers or advice. Um, I don't know if that's just my experience. Granted, a lot of people here are older, so they have a lot of knowledge and like a lot of guidance, but without them, I mean, the HR person is like my age or like 2 years older, and when you email him, he's not the most responsive person. So, yeah.
Yeah, my experience with HR, it depends on the company, right? For example, at the government level, public servant level, when you're an employee, they still have a very structured HR department. So you definitely follow that same conventional format. When you go into, for example, at Solar Turbines, they also had and still have a very formal HR department. However, it has changed a little bit on whether they do onboarding or not onboarding during COVID, and we're like 5 years, 6 years removed from COVID at the moment. We're still seeing a lot of the onboarding taking place remotely, where remotely means you actually go in as an employee. They probably have orientation, whereas orientation in the previous, before pre-COVID, it was a full day event. Now it's maybe 1 to 2 hours welcoming. Essentially, you get one of the top level executives to welcome the new hires, and they will say, what our values are, et cetera, et cetera. And HR will give you your computer, your laptop, your badge. You'll go through that effort, and then you will go and have to do different video pre-recorded modules in your desk and go through that effort, which means healthcare benefits, additional 401k, financial conversations are pre-recorded videos, and you do it as an employee at your own time, at your own pace. Whereas before, it was a full day onboarding event where if you actually had a question about benefits, W-4, W-2, completing the actual documentation, you actually had a finance person on site that you could actually go there. So it was a full day event once again. But even in DoD, when I got onboarded at Northrop Grumman, not saying that this is right or wrong, but this is my experience. I actually got hired on. It was all through email and through a phone call. And when I actually came in the first day, there was no orientation, no onboarding. I simply met my manager at the front door. He gave me my badge and he gave me a computer. He showed me where to sit and he said, okay, here's the printed instructions for your onboarding. What that meant is I logged on, gave me instructions on how to log into my system. And I turned the computer. The computer indicated, okay, go to this website to go ahead and hear the onboarding videos. And you had several modules, I would say between 1 to 12 modules that you had to complete. Not all in one day. You had a charge number to go ahead and do it. And you had about 6 or 7 days to do the full onboarding videos, right? And some of them were 45 minutes long, some of them were 30 minutes, one of them was an hour. So they do have ethics, they do have code of conduct, they do have financial indications of how to set up your automatic payment, payroll, et cetera, et cetera. So they do have all those videos. Once again, before COVID, it was all in person, and you definitely had more senior individuals with more experience on site that were there. But now, to Lourdes's point, it has changed a little bit. But once again, every company is a little bit different. So maybe Lourdes with the startup company or this particular company, things have changed. But that's where we're at, and that's why we bring this topic to the table as well, to bring awareness of different little intricacies that maybe you don't know as a new employee, as a student, that once again, you didn't really think about. And one of the big things that Mr. Mike Cruz and I think about is a lot of the young people don't really think about the longevity of their career, right? The 30-year mark, the 25-year mark. I know that last time in another episode, Ken did show us a 10-year plan, 5-year plan, 20-year plan, but not every student, not every employee, young professional has that in mind, right? They just go day to day, and their goal is to, I graduate, get a job, but what does that really look like? What does that mean? Where are you going to work? And a lot of students don't really think about more than just graduating 4 years in college and all of a sudden you're in the workforce industry. And what does that really entail? So that's why we bring this type of conversations to the table. Hopefully we can answer, bring awareness, and give you more insight. And if anybody reaches out to any of us here, we will be more than happy to help you. With that, thank you so much. Have a good day. We'll see you next time. Hasta luego. Bye-bye.